So, this video was supposed to be uploaded on Halloween. Are people still celebrating that right now? I should probably stop announcing dates for videos until I'm out of college this semester. Anyways, there's this thing going around, Team Trees, not sure if you guys heard of it, but it's basically an organization that's trying to get 20 million trees planted because, well, trees are kind of dying right now, and you don't really want that kind of thing to happen. So if you can, make sure you guys try and donate. I will leave a link to that in the description. So if you guys are able to try and donate to Team Trees, then make sure you guys go ahead and do that. Even if you're not able to, show this to someone else who might be able to, as again, we kind of need trees to live. I myself have already donated money into this, as well as plenty of other YouTubers who you guys might know have already brought it up. So this is something that you guys can actually trust. But anyways, on with the video. Monster House, an animated film about a group of kids that find out that the house across the street with that one mean old man you know is living inside of a house that is actually a monster. Okay, saying that out loud, the concept sounds really dumb, but it was still a good movie, to me at least. Not really sure about everyone watching this. It was one of those movies that you'll more than likely remember seeing shown on Cartoon Network a decent amount of the time during October alongside the Scary Godmother movies. Not nearly as much as those movies, but still a good amount. Now, I'm not going to beat around the bush. Despite me mentioning the Scary Godmother movies like I did in my Polar Express review, you'd probably expect me to do a game review on that for Halloween instead of the film I've never mentioned up until this point. You'd also expect this video to be done on Halloween, but regardless, I would review a Scary Godmother game.
If I had one!
So since there isn't, I'm doing the next best thing for a Halloween special. Though again, it's kind of late for that, so let's hope that people don't mind that. So, later than actually expected, I'll be going over the Monster House video game to celebrate post-Halloween, I guess. Again, I'm pretty sure no one is celebrating this at this point. The game starts off with a monologue about the overall events of the movie by DJ.
Nevercracker wasn't a monster. His house was.
Okay, that does not sound like him, but we'll get to that later. After the quick recap, the story starts at the point when... Game, screw you for that. Anyways, the story starts at the point when the kids are eaten by the house, and most of your time is spent inside of said house until you make it outside and defeat the house in the construction site like in the movie, and that's really it. Now, only showing the second half of the movie makes sense because everything beforehand I don't really see being useful for the game, and there's actually not that many locations in the movie to begin with. I mean, the only ones they don't really use are the arcade place and DJ's house, kind of. It's shown off in the intro, but again, it's not really playable at all. However, there are two things that I really don't like about how the story is handled. Number one is how the characters find out the plot twist that the house is Nevercracker's wife. Them finding the body, I don't mind, that was in the movie too. But this next part is the difference that makes it really dumb and screws it all up. In the movie, Nevercracker actually explains the backstory of his wife, which makes sense. In the game, however, Nevercracker is only mentioned, he's never shown in-game. So instead, when they find Constance's body, they look up and are shown the backstory by... something. It's not really explained. And I don't imagine that it's the house because she wants them either out of the house or dead. So why would she bother showing them this? It doesn't benefit her at all. Plus, if she is showing them that, then that means she knows that they're down there and isn't trying to immediately kill them, which is what she wants to have happen. So again, goodness, I just don't like how they rewrote that. Number two is the theme that this game gives, which is taking care of everything in the neighborhood and the world. This was not a thing in the movie, like, not even kind of. I really don't think there is a theme for the movie, which isn't even a bad thing, and if there was one, it was implied and flowed way better in the movie. They either tried to shove the implied theme in your face, which was way worse, or they just forced in a moral just so there is a moral, but it's completely unnecessary to do so. The game could have worked perfectly fine without any edits made whatsoever, but unfortunately, they were made for one reason or another, and it does hinder the story by a decent amount. The movie had a unique art style that most animated movies don't do, not that that's a bad thing. So is that implemented here? No, it's pretty standard for a video game, but that doesn't mean it looks bad. In fact, it looks pretty good with a fair amount of attention to facial expressions and some nice looking environments. The only problems I've seen are the occasional light flickering, that's definitely not intended, and some animations just, oh goodness, that's happening, okay. Songs for the game are mostly pretty short. A lot of the soundtrack is mainly just jingles, or at least from what I found on YouTube. However, the songs that are decent length give more of an ambience to the setting, which to me was the best way to go about this soundtrack. The game even uses silence with various sound effects as a way to set the tone to make you nervous if something is going to pop out at you. What? You think I'm gonna jump scare you again? Come on. Some of you must know me by now. I am much more unpredictable than that, and I'm also not that lazy. Sometimes. You'll just have to wait and see. Anyways, the music is used very simply, yet very effectively. Now, let's talk about the thing I mentioned in the previous section that I was saving for later, the voice acting. There's a very small cast in this game since most characters from the movie don't show up here. Thankfully though, all of them do pretty good jobs, and they'd better since every voice actor is the same aside from Skull. That's the wrong Skull. Thank you. In place of the original voice actor, Skull is done by Keith Ferguson, who I have mentioned before in previous videos. The weirdest voice though is DJ's, because they are both done by the same person, Mitchell Musso. Yes, that Mitchell Musso. But both versions sound pretty different from each other.
Wanna tell me what's going on?
Oh yeah, I made the whole puberty thing up. Hi, I'm JD, DJ.
I told my friend Chowder. He didn't believe me. Then the house tried to eat him. He believes me now.
When I first heard the voice, I immediately thought that they got someone else to play DJ, but nope, same person. The game was also released really close to the movie, so the difference is even weirder. All I can assume is that he was sick or something when he did the lines for the game. Other than that, I've got no idea how they're so different. Speaking of said characters, with there being such a small cast, you would hope that the writing between the characters is pretty good. Unfortunately, it is much more boring compared to the movie. There was actually a lot of funny dialogue between the characters in the film, but there's not nearly as much here. I really only chuckled at one line the entire game, which is really disappointing. To add on top of that, in-game dialogue is filled with repeated phrases which gets rather annoying very fast. Having to hear,
What's going on? 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 What's going on?
over and over again makes me want to rip my ears off every time I hear it. And since I have to edit this video, it's going to be even more annoying having to hear it. When it comes to playable stuff, there's the main game where you go through the story, and a minigame that I'll talk about later on. In the standard mode, you mostly play as DJ, Chowder, or Jenny, going through various areas of the house trying to take it down. Gameplay overall is similar when it comes to locking onto enemies and taking them down with water guns and a secondary weapon which is powerful but has a limited amount of ammo. They are also able to duck down to avoid flying objects and dodge to the side or backwards to avoid attacks. Every character does have some differences among each other. DJ's water gun acts like an assault rifle with a swing for a melee attack. His secondary weapon is a camera which can either defeat or stun enemies caught in a flash. Chowder has a water gun similar to a shotgun, having a somewhat wide shot and the slowest fire rate out of all three. His melee attack is a slam, while his secondary weapon is a water balloon that explodes on impact. Jenny uses a pistol-like water gun. Her melee is essentially curb stomping enemies and is probably my favorite animation in the entire game. The second weapon she wields is a slingshot which does a lot of damage to a single enemy and is useful for breaking locks on doors. As you progress through the game, every character gets upgrades for their guns. DJ has an alternate fire, which basically turns his water gun into a water hose. Alternatively, for the other characters, they can get increased damage or increased fire rate. The chests that you come across come in two types. Brown chests, which contains keys or objects to progress through the game, and black chests, which refills your secondary ammo. You can also find individual pieces of secondary ammo on the ground or after breaking objects. If you need health, you can pick up soda to refill it. Also, yes, soda, not soda pop. And if you say pop, get off of this channel. Please don't actually, it doesn't actually matter, but I'll still call you out on it because it's soda. Anyways, if you need help progressing, you can get a message from Skull on your walkie-talkie. Occasionally, you'll be treated with Yikes! See what I was talking about earlier? I gotta be unpredictable with these things. But anyways, you'll be treated with that and you'll need to quickly react to the button that appears on screen to escape, well, dying. All around the house you'll see some toy monkeys hidden around. By finding your way over to them and looking directly at them, you can collect artwork for the game, which you can access in the main menu. There are also arcade tokens that you get for breaking some objects. These tokens allow you to play the minigame Thou Art Dead, an arcade game that was mentioned in the movie. In this minigame, you go through Castlevania-esque levels, swinging your axe and slashing through enemies. Picking up the golden axe allows you to throw it in various areas. Oh yeah, there's also one section in the game where you slam an excavator into the house. Also, that's what it's called in case you don't know, an excavator. The more you know. The gameplay is very solid all around. There's a lot of rooms with varying aesthetics, which helps make the settings be different throughout the entire game. Of course, there's the standard rooms you see just about anywhere, like a kitchen, an attic, and more with hallways connecting them. But there's also rooms where you enter along the wall or the roof, an area with a circus theme, an underground section, a room with a train set, and more. This is pretty creative, and I didn't expect to see this kind of variety for the rooms. Though this is also kinda weird because the small house from the movie suddenly has a grand scale on the inside that's equivalent to something from Luigi's Mansion. In this case, I don't mind because this 2.5-hour game would end up being way shorter if the house was accurate in this game. And the inside of the house has enough diversity to not feel like you're going through the same areas. I wish another house felt the same way when I played another game. Enemy design is also pretty varied throughout the game, though one of them I despise trying to fight because they are the biggest pains on earth, but aside from that, the enemies don't ruin the entire experience. The toy monkeys give a little bit of a reward for exploration since there's not much else of a reason to aside from breaking some objects. Also, as I was progressing through the game, I got more and more of an odd sense of familiarity from it. It was familiarity to a certain series, and you'll probably laugh when I say this, but it's similar to Resident Evil. Now, hear me out, there's a reason I'm bringing that up. Just think about it for a moment. You're going from room to room, seeing the spooky atmosphere, fighting enemies with third-person strafing movement, breaking objects for items to help you, finding keys in other objects to get through the level, and the sudden yet evenly spaced out QuickTime events to keep you on your toes. Of course, there are still some things that Resident Evil has over this game, like much harder puzzles, an actual inventory, and zombies. But this game does manage to have the same style of Resident Evil gameplay in a much more toned down and effective way. And that's perfectly fine with me. The most annoying thing that can happen in this game is input buffering, which is whenever you get hit and you have something pressed down beforehand, the character will do the action after getting hit, even if the button isn't held down anymore. It wasn't too often when this would happen and wasn't always the worst thing in the world if it did end up happening, especially since this game is pretty easy, but this kind of thing is always an annoyance whenever it shows up and can potentially be the difference between living or dying. And again, the difficulty can completely make or break a situation like this. By the way, remember that walkie-talkie I mentioned before? That's only for DJ. Chowder and Jenny don't get any hints, which story-wise makes sense as DJ is the only one that gets a walkie-talkie, but why not do this for everyone since everyone's gameplay is fairly similar? Plus the walkie-talkie here was added in for this game. That's not even a thing at this point in the movie. So they could have made up something for Chowder and Jenny like they did with DJ. Like if they all came in with walkie-talkies or something, that could have fixed that. And it also could have added more dialogue between the three characters since they'd be able to communicate with each other, more than likely, and potentially help deal with the repetitive voice line issue I brought up earlier. So either everyone should have that ability or no one should have the ability. This shouldn't be limited to just one character. Thou Art Dead is just an okay minigame. You can't really do much with it and the presentation for it is overall okay. I probably feel this way because how it's shown in the movie is not the same as the game. Then again, Skull probably made the game out to be way cooler than it actually is. But part of the reason is probably because there's no gore, which was one of the main appealing factors to this arcade game, at least in terms of Skull's vision of it. And yes, I understand this is a game targeted for kids, but the movie is also rated PG, so it should be okay. The reason I'm not really upset about this is because it's an added game mode that you probably wouldn't have expected getting into this game. They put in the effort for the minigame and I appreciate that. Plus I don't really have to play it since of course I have the main game. Speaking of, a full playthrough gets you more than enough tokens to play this multiple times so you don't have to grind for multiple attempts, which I'm super happy about. The developers could have been really stingy on how you get those coins. This game turned out decently well to my surprise. The gameplay is almost like a child's version of Resident Evil, which I feel works very well for Monster House. Overall, it's very fun, though there are a few frustrating moments in the game. I do wish the story was done better, as there was some unnecessary changes to it which brought it down by a lot. But this is a fun game to play for Halloween, or post-Halloween, if you're me, and late on things, and in general is a really good game despite its somewhat big flaws. So hopefully this review makes up for not being able to do a Scary Godmother game review. It doesn't, but it's not like I can review a game that doesn't exist. What's going on, my fellow residents? It's me, TheFrozenCavern, and thank you guys for making it to the end of this video. So as I keep mentioning throughout the video, this was supposed to be a Halloween upload. Yeah, college is a very fun time right now, but don't worry, nothing bad's going on. It's just, as per usual for this semester, college has been trying to eat me alive, but I am managing, so that's good. And the fact that this video was also pretty late is why I didn't have any lore or even a meme at the beginning of the video, because it was just faster to not edit that, so I could make sure I have a video out for you guys. So, for those of you who are waiting for this game, sorry for the delay, that's somewhat my bad, but I'm doing my best to get my videos out to you guys. One thing I guess I can ask though, since Halloween has actually passed, what did you guys dress up as for Halloween if you guys ended up doing that? I actually dressed up as Hooded Roxas, as that is one of my favorite video game characters of all time. It felt very fitting for me to do that, and it was pretty good. There are some things that I do want to adjust for it, but at the same time, I still feel like I did a really good job and I'm pretty proud of that costume. But anyways, if you guys have not already, make sure you go into the description below, as that is where all of my social medias are located. My Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Discord are all down there, and there are all ways of you guys being able to be notified of whenever I upload another video, as well as have updates for the channel. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as share this video out with your friends and family. But until next video, take care.